at least, with both targeted bans here for the supports.
Yeah, remember Aurelion Sol was the very last pick in the draft. The support bans remain the same. There was also an Olaf ban for TSM at the end of the draft and a Karma ban for CLG at the end of the draft in the first game, which was just remade.
Olaf, Karma, so we're going to see the same thing in that sense for the bans. First pick here for Hauntzer, as he gives him the smile off. He will pick up the gangplank.
And that was one part of TSM's game that was going according to plan. He was soaking up damage on the top side, clearing multiple very important minion waves on the top side, which earned them very small advantages. You know, one wave means the difference between getting first blood or first brick on the turrets. And actually, the champ select is going exactly the same. Maybe they do just plug in and repeat with taliyah taking the place of Aurelion Sol.
Yeah, I think the biggest place you'd see a variance maybe would have been in the bottom side if the trundle lane had been going too poorly against the soraka sivir, but we don't even see that here. It's the exact same first 5 picks.
Yeah, the only really bad thing that was going on in that lane was the roam from CLG early on. Xmithie went for the invade, HuHi backed him up with a roam from mid lane as well on Aurelion Sol at the level 5, and they killed Doublelift. That caused them to lose the wave that resulted in him being down in CS also, but before that, it was extremely even.
Very close to being the same. That gnar is definitely going to get locked in. I wouldn't see Darshan going to anything else. I know definite, very fierce word to use. I think he's got it.
I know when CLG played SKT in the finals of MSI, they did exactly the same pick bans in game 1 and 2. It's like, you want us to remake? We're going to do the same champions. Except they can't pick Aurelion Sol. So there'll be at least one tweak.
Big fan of the run back.
Yeah. And it's looking like a run back. 7 for 7 so far of identical champs picked. 8 for 8. 9 for 9 with blocks. Now we get to see the variants.
Oh my
This is the
word.
moment we've been waiting for.
Oh, no, his heart. Oh, unlucky.
Yeah.
Crushed Aurelion Sol's broken dreams.
Yeah. Honestly, though, yeah, my best guess would be just to plug and play there with the taliyah instead.
Yep. That's exactly it. I mean, it can be a similar style for sure as far as the early shove and then the roaming. It's just a champion he's probably not as masterful on because he's been playing Aurelion Sol since MSI.
Yeah. So good thing is, all of our stories that we were setting up before still reapply. We'll have to reset up each story here. HuHi roaming, Xmithie going for the counter jungling, bottom lane focus. You always do have to worry about the gangplank and his ability to clear those waves. That has been, that was one of the things that was going really well for TSM. So maybe we'll see small adjustment from TSM, team play wise rather than in champion select, because that is something they can, try and account for. The problem is that even if you focus on the bottom side, once Hauntzer does get level 6, the Gangplank ultimate can also be used across map rather than on himself to clear waves. That's why he's so high priority right now. Very versatile, has a lot of different options with answering that.
We'll see what happens as they get into this game. You got to always think in a best-of-5 series, game 1 is kind of the equal to looking at the first few pitches. You can figure the team out, their aggression, how they may want to play this series. You never want to lose it. You don't want to let those games go. You're not just going to bunt one out, but you want to figure out what CLG is doing because they do counter logic. Head back over to Twitter, hashtag TSM win, hashtag CLG win. We're going to lock and load this one once more as we get back onto the Rift. We're going to see Counterlogic Gaming and TSM head off once again as CLG looks for the chance to defend their title in Toronto. And that's going to start right here against TSM.
Yeah, a lot of Worlds implications on the line. What we do know for sure is the winner of this series will be going to Worlds for sure.
No, that's true.
It's because
the points on the,
Right, and the reason is because both of these teams are the teams with the most championship points, obviously, from Spring Split, because this was the finals of Spring Split.
They got those nice swelled up piggy banks full of championship points that will allow them. Dash will discuss them at the end of the day, as he loves to do.
Yeah, in fact, even if CLG finishes 4th, if TSM wins the whole split, CLG still goes to Worlds on points.
It's true.
So if you are a CLG fan, you're going to have to be a TSM fan in finals if TSM beats you here.
Honestly, it feels
crazy.
like on the inside of every CLG fan, there's a little bit of TSM fan there. That's the little devil in them. And same thing
The
on
other shoulder.
You're going to get a lot of angry tweets for that one.
Same thing for the TSM fans, honestly. I mean, they're like blood brothers, really. The two oldest teams. It's a very long relationship that these two teams share.
The two families, right?
Yeah, I mean, did you know that Reginald himself has actually played for CLG in our history?
Our?
Yes, our. Did you
I'll
know
give
that,
you
I
that.
also have played
I'll
this
give you
game?
that. You have the medal.
I have to say, there's most players. Never mind. All right, let's get back into this game because there
was
is
ready.
not going to be an early invade, it looks
Hot
like.
cocoa,
And
sit
both
down.
duos are going to start their camps, Grump and Krugs. We'll see how quickly they can get to lane. Should be fine for them, for both, honestly.
Yeah, and no harassment on the early camps either. Both junglers starting with an early pull. When this situation happened between Xmithie and Dardoch in the quarterfinals, I almost always preferred Xmithie's pathing, so I'm really curious to see where he's going to decide to gank first. The conventional wisdom would be you'd think he's going bottom lane, but I wonder if he's going to switch things up.
What would we see from him in that switch?
Yeah, so he has a lot of different options. rek'sai skips blue buff most of the time. So sometimes you'll see the gragas take the red buff and then go immediately to the blue buff, which is why Svenskeren is left to trail ward at his own blue.
And HuHi this time around goes for the wave shove and gets 2 Raptors. Has improved since last game, so those little adjustments CLG already making from the last game. The thing that with Gragas, he has so many options. Actually, one of my favorites is something that LPL junglers do a lot, the Chinese junglers. They actually start on red, will get an immediate level 2 and go for ganks. But here, yeah, HuHi once again goes for that jungle invade. Does chunk out Svenskeren and actually doesn't lose anything, as doesn't get cut off by Bjergsen when he heads back to lane. So HuHi again making his presence felt.
Yeah, great to see. Very, very comfortable using that passive speed of being next to walls to make himself continuously in motion, giving hell to Svenskeren. He obviously smites his red buff, gets himself back on his way, but it doesn't seem to phase HuHi here coming back into the second game. He's still adding the same pressure.
Yeah, what's super interesting here is it looks like Svenskeren is going with an incredibly similar route to what he did in game 1, where he took his red buff, and now he's actually looping back up around and could probably just even go for the counter jungle of the Krugs, which will be later, and Xmithie's doing a completely standard full clear. So the situations that happened in game 1 are actually kind of repeating themselves.
All the way from champion select.
There's the ward, just cut it off. Well done, HuHi.
Flew over, this will help Bjergsen get his wave cleared out. Hauntzer and Darshan going to be clean for now. Haven't gotten that presence from Svenskeren to the top lane just yet, but we might see it after this blue delivery.
Yeah, does get handed off the blue, loses 1 melee to the tower for his efforts, but that is really going to help as far as the shove is concerned and trying to keep up with taliyah. HuHi, though, will get the first back, will get back quicker. Negatron Cloak already going to try and protect himself from the all-ins of Cassiopeia. One of those stories that we were setting up in the last game in Champ Select, talking about how Cassiopeia has been one of the champions that HuHi has had the most difficulty with. One of his personal demons that he's been trying to deal with is getting solo killed by that champion, and Bjergsen, definitely one of the most fearsome mid laners that we have in all of the North American LCS. So early Negatron Cloak, actually no surprise here.
Right, that actually plays into kind of what Aphromoo and the team was saying. You kind of lose concentration in mid lane. If you do that against a champion like Cassiopeia, you could instantly be deleted very quick. Take a few steps forward too far. Bjergsen will know exactly what to work. 34-34. CS from throughout the season is actually pretty close by these guys. Bjergsen's around 8 CS. And then HuHi's going to be around 7.1, 7.5 CS as they continue to farm per minute. So that lane should stay pretty even.
Gank approaching in the top side.
Oh, they're going for it.
Daryl's actually going to try to stop Xmithie. Very nicely seen as he plays himself out of that one.
Yeah, good flash there from Hauntzer. Definitely necessary not to die on the gangplank in this matchup early on. This is the dynamic of the gangplank gnar that we talked about. Very different strikes for these two champions, but both of them can be, played to very early on in the game. Now he has no flash though, and the wave is pushing against him, or away from him. So Hauntzer can actually, or Darshan can keep this wave right in front of his turret. This is a very bad spot for Hauntzer because he's not even level 6 yet, doesn't have access to the ultimate.
Yeah, and something that did happen while the gank was approaching in the top lane is Bjergsen did get HuHi's flash in the mid lane. So we were talking about how he's going to struggle in this Cassiopeia. Already down flash, had to burn through all of his potions, and now he's not the first one to level 6 either. So Bjergsen definitely trying to make his presence felt in that mid side.
That positioning as well as he starts to go kind of horizontal to HuHi. Has the ward and Raptor Brush so he can really start to play aggressive. And this could be where that starts to play, Kobe, where HuHi starts to fall behind against this Cassiopeia. Bjergsen's closer and closer, and the next few waves are going to be at the turret.
Yeah, you can see Bjergsen playing aggressively. As you mentioned, Jat, when we were talking about the summer selection as well, Bjergsen is very clearly playing this to try and get kills onto HuHi. We talked about the stats for all of the lanes of CLG. In their roles, most solo deaths all across the map for them. And TSM want to try and punish that. Bjergsen's starting to play aggressively here, and they've got wards around mid lane. That's the most important part when you want to play that style.
Yeah, and I think CLG need to ward quite well as well right now because both their solo laners are without flash, and Svenskeren is in their jungle. So Xmithie either needs to find that or be there for a little bit of protection. I'd say more so for the mid lane than for the top right now because of gnar, but if he goes mini, that could be very dangerous.
It definitely could. Also, if we see the junglers, meeting up, taliyah is now level 6. And when you talk about different strengths, her ultimate provides the ability to roam so much quicker than Cassiopeia. But if Bjergsen gets there very quickly, when his ghost comes back up off cooldown or something, then in the straight up stand-up fight, definitely has the DPS advantage.
Exactly, and that's not even talking about the roaming phase of the game we're at right now. It was actually 5 minutes and 30 seconds in the last matchup where CLG had taken their duo lane and switched up top. So even though it is a fairly simple strategy to just swap once the turret fortification is down, there are still a bunch of mind games involved because if you leave too early, you could even lose your turret on the other side.
Definitely a bit of a different dynamic here. We already had the gank from CLG bot lane with Xmithie's invade. A lot of focus has been towards the top, but either time Darshan or Hauntzer have had each other pushed into the turret, so no real gank pressure has come of it. Hauntzer's been able to avoid the one, and something we talked about before as well is the pressure he can soak up for TSM.
Definitely true. And I have to say, one of the most important things about these two teams to me is the level of importance that both of these teams have put on mental fortitude, in especially this season. CLG, we talked about so much how they focused on teamwork, and they spent their whole last season retooling the whole team around that playstyle. TSM, hiring staff specifically to help them with, anti-tilt, basically.
Right.
And the mental fortitude in the game has really shown off. And I have to say, recovering after a remake like that in game number 1, and both teams playing really cautiously right now, this does prove the point here where both these teams are some of the most mentally strong teams that we do have in the North American LCS right now.
Yeah, and TSM getting a little bit of pressure in the jungle. It's again looking like CLG's playing a little bit passively. But to even continue on your point, Kobe, you look at CLG and the feature we saw on HuHi. When Aphromoo was talking about they think HuHi's a good player, but HuHi doesn't know that, so they have to tell him. Well, especially when he can't play Aurelion Sol, it's important he continues to play confidently, as there's plays happening on both sides of the map.
Definitely read there by rek'sai. Svenskeren used the ultimate, but bottom side!
Stixxay getting hit up, the exhaust is there. He still has flash, the heal goes down, fights across the map. Stixxay is gonna go down to first blood. That's Bjergsen coming up with a kill. Darshan answers back. The fight in the bottom is still going back and forth, and it's going to be Doublelift down. Stixxay lived throughout it by holding the heal, holding the flash, and then fighting back.
Woo! Ridiculous. Across the map, 2 different victories here. CLG actually win the 2 versus 2. Everybody was giving it to Doublelift and Biofrost because of the strength there, but Aphromoo with the ultimate, that timely wish actually helps out both skirmishes.
Exactly.
7 summoner spells burned in the bottom lane alone.
Oh boy.
Darshan's got an angle on Hauntzer.
He has the barrel, he has the
too.
Oh, it's a hit for hit! He gets the orange in, it could be K. Burning, Bjergsen comes in and saves him! Oh my word.
Everybody's had that moment where you have the red buff burned on them, you throw your last auto and walk away,
pop
try
a
and be
potion
the
and
cool
squeeze.
guy. Not so cool there though. The citrus, the power of citrus prevails.
All right,
and
let's see this
Hauntzer walks
all over
away.
again. This was pretty chaotic.
Oh man, the pillar to start off, they get the snare, they even get the slow and exhaust there onto Doublelift, and the heal really turns it around on him.
Yeah, Stixxay can just flash follow as well as Aphromoo, and they go right onto double jhin traps, but it doesn't matter. With the damage down, Aphromoo can continue to heal up, and that really salvaged that play for CLG.
Meanwhile, though, TSM fans and CLG fans with a TSM fan inside of them can both be happy about the top lane side, where Bjergsen picked up a kill on Cassiopeia. He actually did get the first blood, so he got the bonus there as well for TSM, and Cassiopeia is where TSM want to play their game off of. So both teams actually getting a lot of money on the strengths that they have drafted towards.
Yeah, with the Abyssal Scepter completed in the tier already there, we're going to get to see this one more time as well. So this is where Svenskeren jumps on a bit early, and Bjergsen gets here within good timing. He gets the damage for the ultimate on everyone. And we're actually going to get to see Hauntzer, who has his flashback.
It's going to be one of these games.
Where are you going to flash, bud?
Same focus here for CLG on top side diving.
Oh, he has the ult. He can throw down a little bit.
Flash there!
What a play! Has to watch the retaliation here. He gets himself out alive and throws up a barrel. The team, one side, like I said, he soaks up the pressure and does so much for the team.
CLG go back to the same strategy, the same draft. They roam to the top side. Again, Hauntzer lives, and they're not done yet.
And now they like to fuse in their favor. The shot's coming out, the curtain call. And they're gonna shove Stixxay off the stage.
It's because of the deferred pressure on the map. CLG used all of their eggs in top lane, and then because Stixxay and Aphromoo were just trying to salvage something, TSM was able to punish it. That's the team-wide communication and trust coming to fruition. Hauntzer survives the 3v1. The rest of the team capitalize.
Gangplank so good at absorbing pressure in the top side and punishing you on the opposite side. TSM got a Drake off that, plus a straggler kill there as they were able to chase down Stixxay. Really, really big swing for TSM. And they really did see that strategy coming once again as CLG used everything on the top side. I have to say, Hauntzer has done such a good job of saving that heal for the last second. It saved him twice. Darshan underestimated it before, walking away from the last auto. And then once again here, he eats the fruit at the exact same time he flashes under turret and survives and almost got a counter kill onto HuHi in a 3 versus 1 scenario.
Incredibly close, but the one thing that CLG can walk away with as a success there is they got an unanswered first turret. The dive that TSM did onto Stixxay was not a turret granting dive. Darshan has a frozen mallet completed now, which will be in a long lane, which means it's unlikely the top lane can get something back.
Yeah.
And with Soraka and Sivir, it's very difficult to push them in for the bottom side. So this could be an unanswered 1,000 plus gold because of the first turret for quite a while.
And we talk about that matchup, how Gangplank can get to what he wants to be, but that frozen mallet is finished very early. And now Hauntzer's gonna have a hard time doing pretty much anything. With Vision, makes it a bit easier, but just watch. This is exactly what he can do every time Hauntzer steps up to the plate.
Yeah, as far as unanswered, the importance of the Infernal Drake is actually twofold here for TSM because they do have all 3 lanes building extra damage as well. So it's very good early Drake for them in that trade. And we'll have to see if that does, turn out to have any issues here for CLG as, Doublelift on the Jhin has gotten to the early armor penetration. Jhin is one of the best champions to have an Infernal Drake on. And the cull is about to pop for him as well. So we'll have to see if they start trying to use this Jhin ultimate to start picking people off, creating opportunities for themselves.
We spoke about it before, but the Jhin plus Gangplank is an incredible synergy, I think especially against Soraka. I think that's going to threaten Aphromoo a lot.
That could be a position to start it with.
That could be the Jhin ult, then the Gangplank ult to follow if they want to finish him off. Could it be over the wall? They said we don't need it yet. Hold it, and TSM are sure to secure that kill.
Woo! That's not even having to deal with the Soraka through Wish as well. Burned a flash from Xmithie and the ult from Aphromoo still get the kill.
See, you have to be cognizant of that danger that we just talked about. When you're fighting for this vision, it's very dangerous. That wasn't even Aphromoo really getting caught. That was even the mobile jungler here. They were even trying to be safe, right? It's very difficult. You're playing against a Trundle pillar, and the enemy team has these long-range Gangplank and Jhin ultimate abilities that can catch you out, even if you're not in TSM territory. So, very good pick there for TSM. They didn't really get an objective afterwards, but we did just get to see an example of that power being used.
It's really the first Bio Trundle we're seeing this season as well, not something he's put into his pocket for the picks he's been using. So coming out strong with the melees as well shows he can also diversify that champion pool. 3-2 now, 15.5 minutes in. We were talking about that 15-minute mark. It's usually about 1,600 plus for TSM, and that's where they found the bank account once again. Very strong early game. See if Darshan can keep holding those side waves and really allow CLG to come back here.
Yeah, Darshan is definitely the man CLG are looking to. He's got the CS lead on Gnar. He's got that kill money as well. All of that contributed to his early frozen mallet here, and he's trying to make his presence felt. We'll see if he can actually bully up here in the long lane and try and create anything. As we said, though, Gangplank, Ultimate is so good at trying to answer cross-map.
Yeah, and something these teams need to think about as well is how are they going to create their advantages and ultimately win the game. You look at CLG, they have not the greatest ways of getting onto Hauntzer or Bjergsen. Like, if they can't actually get onto Bjergsen, it's going to be very difficult for them to end the game. And then TSM, likewise, they're the long-range pick team. I think that's the way they get it, because otherwise, the disengage from Sivir and Soraka and Gragas is going to be pretty immense. We may be in for a long game if these teams don't go incredibly aggressive.
It seems that CLG has kind of tempered themselves a bit. We saw a lot more action from lane to lane, and actually more turrets dropped, so that kind of escalated it as well. And here things have slowed down a bit as TSM gain a lead. And Hauntzer keeps soaking up CS in the top lane. He's going to catch up quite soon.
Teams are going for plays on opposite sides of the map right now, so that means CLG have to recall their bottom lane. They're sending so many people top that their bottom lane's got to be the target. They know this. TSM have full vision coverage, and it will just be the trade of objectives. You know, good job by them recognizing that they're overloading that other side of the map, and they need to back off. Again, the importance of that wave clear with the gangplank.
Yeah, and it's actually not a trade yet, because they didn't get that bottom lane turret, and they're wondering whether or not HuHi should pull back. I think eventually they can pressure it, but that requires some really deep vision in the TSM jungle and a large commitment to get an interior turret. So far, it's actually just a positive trade for TSM, and they're in position for the respawning Drake, which is a mountain.
So much vision for TSM setting up for this Drake. And the other thing that you were kind of touching on earlier, how you thought it might be a long game if they don't go aggressive. TSM is the team that want to kite back through their gangplank barrels, their cassiopeia, and their pillar spam. So the Drake is just so hard to contest there. You have to give it up if you're CLG. You can't afford to check into the fog of war versus a team like TSM have built here, and they want to try and kite backwards.
Yeah. A lot of wards as well. Look at the bottom side of that map. It's like a light bright right now. TSM side. Going to be towards the top side for CLG. Kind of playing process of elimination here.
Whoa!
Wards on the bot as well. Equinox onto Bjergsen. He's silenced out. And Biofrost is going a little bit harder there. Bjergsen's backed, and they can't really continue on this. Really just added pressure from the curtain call. And CLG is getting the Herald for Darshan, who again is going to be big in those sides.
Yeah, that's going to be a big pickup for them. As we said, this is the guy they're trying to play around, so they're putting more effort into that, putting more resources into Darshan with the Glimpse of the Void. That's going to further empower, his split push and his 1v1 ability. I have to say, Aphromoo being on Soraka there did save CLG's butt in that pick because it could heal up, and the Jhin ultimate obviously does more damage the less health you have, so Soraka has to keep topping people off to reduce the further incoming damage of Jhin.
HuHi took a lot of hits from that ultimate, and it was like, oh, it's full health, it's fine. It wasn't even a problem.
Yeah, the problem really comes up when Soraka's the one getting shot, because she can't heal herself, and she's very slow, and she has to only use her flash to get away from trundle pillars, so Aphromoo is really the guy that has to be most worried about his positioning, because if he's the one getting shot, then they're going to have a lot of issues.
Also incredibly aware of those situations. Something like that happens in the blink of an eye, and you got to be ready to have a cross-map save.
Yeah. Stixxay pop the Sivir ult and like, run, Afro, run, because you better...
Yeah, right? You're always going faster. Speedy medical Soraka. 20 minutes coming up on the clock, and TSM, #1 and first Drakes in the game, and they continue that throughout here against CLG in the playoffs. Also grabbing a mountain as well, so once they start to approach the turrets, Chronologic Gaming might have some trouble.
Yeah, I like what TSM are doing, actually. They continually position Hauntzer into the lane to try and wave clear, and then overload the other side of the map to get these turret trades. And then, in each of those trades, they get a little bit of tempo. Bjergsen actually roamed up to that top side to make sure it did happen this time around. But this time, Stixxay and Aphromoo, they zone Hauntzer off the turret, and CLG should probably be able to get that answer, even though rek'sai ults down.
Yeah, they'd have to be a little bit careful, because if rek'sai ulted down and the GP teleported behind them, they'd be in a pretty sticky situation. But that's why CLG have brought Xmithie and HuHi into the jungle, just to kind of be insurance in case something like that happens, and to maintain their one turret advantage on the map.
All right, now they're being a little bit adventurous, though, because they don't have wards in this bottom side, and the rest of TSM have started to rotate down towards them, so CLG can't really stick around for extra pushing here, and it is intelligent that they do back off now.
This is a really tense game. You also have to consider the mental strength of these teams having to go through the remake. I really credit CLG for just kind of swapping in the taliyah instead of the Aurelion Sol. The team fighting, I feel like, towards the end isn't going to be as strong for them, so it puts more of an emphasis on HuHi to try and make these side lane plays, which hasn't happened yet, because you think about a late game team fight, a Weaver's Wall flying into a Cassiopeia is just a wall. Like, the taliyah is gone if she follows that in.
Yeah. If we already, start look at the scaling for each of these teams, there's going to be a lot of pressure on Stixxay's shoulders because Stixxay is the late game carry for this team. He's on the sivir. He's actually off to a very good start, so that's not too bad for CLG. He did get one of their 2 kills, and he has the 2 item components of the core items for sivir. Once he does get the Infinity Edge to top it off, he can actually carry team fights if HuHi just controls the zoning for him. And allows him to get off a lot of those ricochet autos as well as boomerangs. But gangplank ultimate once again.
Svenskeren goes right onto Stixxay, working the ground as HuHi from the back here. And now it's going to be a big cast from Xmithie before he goes down. All of TSM come out pretty unscathed and look for more.
CLG had arrived to that turret early and really wanted to finish it, but they did not give enough respect to the GP and Jhin catch right there. All it took was that one shot landing on Aphromoo, and he was gone. And now TSM are the ones that are getting the mid lane turret, maybe 2.
You guys know that it's going to be difficult when they can get Aphromoo with that front end damage. He goes down, and everybody else runs for the hills. You can see how hurt HuHi is on this one. So CLG not giving respect to TSM towards their side of the map, and it cost them.
To CLG's credit, they had rotated early. They just had to fall back a little bit earlier before the turret was there. Once Svenskeren is able to go in on the GP ultimate, they can knock Stixxay up while he's in there. Xmithie was trying to tank them up, but he was also dying to Bjergsen, so he had to eventually let a shot through to Aphromoo, which was fatal on that side, and they both go down.
Not really allowing Darshan any time to get into the fight. CLG has to recognize that's where a lot of their power is here in this game. Mid turret still prepped to go down, so gold for CLG to pick up there. They just have to be very careful about how they go about it, as TSM will be ready for the attack. About a 3,000, 4,000 gold lead really here for TSM as they continue to control the game. They just haven't really taken that control into their favor yet. They're allowing CLG to just come at them as they are that counter-attack team.
That was super interesting. Bjergsen actually sacked that mid lane turret because no local gold will go over to CLG. So overall, it's a denial, but temporarily, it's gold for CLG.
Yeah, a few hundred gold there denied, but the gap actually opening up is pretty good for CLG. As this Drake is about to spawn, they've put down a pink ward on it, so they're trying to set up for this fight. They want this fight to be the one where they come back into the game. They don't want to let TSM continue to control the Drakes. Watch the gangplank ultimate once again, though. They're going to try and use that to get damage on the back line and soften them up for Jhin.
And also pay attention to gnar and also where Xmithie's ultimate will knock people. If Xmithie can get Bjergsen into the fight, there's no cleanse, and even if he has flash, he may be dead by the time he can react.
Good choice there from TSM to actually control the mid wave and pressure CLG on their secondary turret rather than feeding into the fog of war at Dragon. Now, step 2, they can just move in, clear out those wards, and claim the Drake as well.
And you cannot base check into a gangplank and a Cassiopeia, plus the Trundle and Jhin to run them down. So by pushing out the mid lane there, TSM was able to swoop back down and just outmaneuver CLG for the Drake. They were able to do it because they're stronger right now, but it was still a very nice map move by TSM.
So if that map move were kind of be disregarded, what is CLG's option there? Or is the move they did just have to be done that quick?
Oh!
Never mind. The next move from TSM is even more right than the first one. They get 2 kills. And you don't even have to answer that.
Yeah, the problem with picking Cassiopeia like that, with the seismic shove, you have to turn your back as soon as you seismic shove her in, because you have to expect, once Bjergsen gets shoved under the turret there, that's going to be his immediate reaction. But he just gets the double stun there. They get a double kill, and CLG need a miracle steal.
I talked about TSM not fully taking control of the game, but there they have taken hold of it completely. Terms of their own attack, and then on the terms of their own Baron. We'll see it once more here.
HuHi had gotten hit up by the Jhin to begin with, so that was a pick one way or the other because they had split to do the 1-3-1, but they didn't have the safety in the mid lane in which to disengage. And because of the double Mountain Drake, the Baron was paper afterwards.
Yeah, there's just so much threat with this Jhin. Even when off screen, Doublelift doesn't have to be in the screen, and CLG still have to respect members of TSM looking for duels like that, because the long range damage right now, he's got all this extra flat armor penetration, and he'll shred anyone on the front line of CLG. So it makes it very difficult to try and take those stand-up fights with anyone that TSM decides to pick.
I also have to commend TSM for their confidence in their own versatility. Throughout the regular split, maybe you could have criticized them for being too cookie-cutter with their drafts and playing smaller champion pools. And even though Trundle and Jhin are common champions in League of Legends, they're actually two champions TSM hadn't played in the entire split.
Whoa!
That's a thing.
Yes, sir. Darshan teleports immediately out because they saw TSM leave bottom lane. He's just like, nope, nope, nope. Not going to stick around. He does get that solo kill gold.
Yep.
However, CLG are going to have to try and wave clear here with Baron buff still on TSM. It looks like taking out gangplank is enough to do it. So that was a very key outplay from Darshan, a very key solo kill for himself. As we said, it's going to be CLG having to play to their strengths here with Darshan and with gnar. And this basically saved them not only the bottom lane pressure, but also the mid turret. That turret would have died to the push of TSM were not for Darshan relieving pressure.
What's up? You have Baron, I have Rift Herald. Let's fight.
Yeah, and he's gnar with the frozen mount.
And your gnar. So we will see what kind of options TSM can provide for themselves here.
He's still gnar, but there's a lot more people here.
Oh, they knew he just gnarred back down to mini, if that's a thing. So they get themselves right in and out of that play, not even within aggro range of the turret. So that's going to fall in their favor here. Like we said, TSM starting to take control. And now in the bot lane, it looks like this second turret will fall. The first inhibitor of the game. And it does not look like CLG will be able to do much. They may put up an ult from Xmithie here to get Hauntzer in. Hello and goodbye as they drink him under the table.
Called it, Riv, right there. Xmithie, good ultimate. And CLG already able to get one kill. The sivir ult was used here. Can they chase down another? They're cutting him off.
It's gonna be tricky. They
the
have to
bounces.
get right onto him.
Nice boomerang as well. Working the ground as HuHi goes the other way, trying to stay within that passive wall movement, but they don't want the full chase. Like we said, it's still difficult to walk into a team like TSM, even on the chase. So CLG say, we're good with protecting the base. We'll set up some more defense here.
So they have to be incredibly careful against Bjergsen when chasing in, who is becoming a monster on Cassiopeia. But as long as they can keep getting picks on what is mainly a squishy triple threat team composition for TSM, they're going to be able to continue to prolong this game. And that was an incredibly dangerous situation. One of the main ways CLG can prolong this game is by having split push pressure with Darshan. The way you beat that is you kill a split push pressure and then you try and push 5v4. TSM had done all the prior steps properly, but then Hauntzer gets caught out. Xmithie had a great play, and it has to reset once again.
Yeah, both teams have really played to that teleport style. Bring it to the teleporter, not to the other side of the map so he can teleport. It's been done on Hauntzer in the early game, and now for Darshan here towards the late. 29 minutes as we come up to crest, 38-4. And it's 56,000 to, we'll give CLG 49 as we round up. The huge lead here as TSM continues to be able to replicate this early game play style, always find somewhat of a lead, even if their turrets are being taken down, even if it seems like they're being worked around the map. Now try and steal the blue away from HuHi, and they will be successful. That Jhin ultimate opening up. We see that between the Ashe and the Jhin lately, and I'm actually starting to favor the Jhin a little bit more. You miss an Ashe arrow, and it's kind of, you miss a Jhin shot, you have a few more to slow it, even AoE style, and continue that fight for your team. And TSM has one that can catch up nicely.
Well, as of right now, CLG are going to have to turtle inside their base, play defensively, watch out for that long-range damage of TSM. You know, during that time, Darshan's going to try and split push, but he doesn't have teleport to get back. So they're just trying to wave clear here. Luckily, you know, CLG, they obviously do have the sivir, which is very good at it, and taliyah in the mid lane. And with Baron being taken very recently, they don't have to worry about that. This Draco, though, has to be forfeit. I don't really know if they can actually afford to risk another team fight loss. That might be the game if they lose another one.
I feel like CLG should actually just try and get as much wave pressure and wards in the Baron area as possible while TSM is taking this third Mountain Drake. As far as Drake stacking goes, 2 Mountain Drakes versus 3 Mountain Drakes means you're either killing Baron instantly or almost instantly. So there's not that much of a difference as far as the strength, in my opinion.
Yeah, the focus of this game right now is on the next team fight, right? The next one is going to be what breaks this thing wide open. And CLG don't have too many more chances. TSM have accumulated a very big lead here. They have a lot of map control as well. So CLG are going to have to make a very quick decision during the next team fight and just run in with the sivir and make one of those surgical plays here. Darshan's level 16 now on the gnar, does have his flash ready, so they can try and isolate some of these squishy members. As you said, TSM, they're a team with triple threat, so if you get the jump on someone, you can try and kill them quickly, but TSM looking very strong.
Yeah, I'm trying to think of a dream scenario for CLG's team fight, and it's basically if taliyah can get a nice wall across TSM that segments some of them away, and then Darshan can gnar into that and get a massive ultimate on many people. The problem with that is it's been so long since you've seen a fight. Like, TSM can flash away. So you have to find a way to get the flashes first and then pull off the combo, which is, like Kobe says, why TSM is looking so strong and very likely to win this game.
It's one of the reasons why I love seeing taliyah in game is because a creative ultimate can change a 6,000 gold lead and completely make it a much different fight if you can separate the team from each other. Something you can create by yourself is very, very strong. It's just HuHi has to put himself in a pretty dangerous position to do that.
Definitely true. Most positions right now are very dangerous for HuHi and CLG, as TSM have deep wards. Look at all these deep wards.
Oh, there's the pillar. HuHi can't even ult to get out of this one. He would have knocked off the surf right away. Aphromoo saves himself with the ultimate as well as some damage from that star call, and everybody continues to get pushed out here as TSM is just roughhousing CLG in their own jungle.
And Bjergsen solo killed Darshan on the other side of the wall right there. So that was CLG attempting to pull off and just completely flopping. TSM way stronger and looking poised to win the game.
Bing, bang, boom. Takes him down. The inhibitor follows right after with its turret, and they could be looking to go for the Nexus turrets here. Really lighting a fire under themselves to come into this little bit of a remake game. Both teams coming out very strong, and TSM is going to try and find the Nexus here in game 1, 11-4, as they battled it out in CLG in the early game. We're gonna have to see how much closer this series can get. We are gonna be going game 2, as TSM is up 1 game.
And TSM has to feel quite happy about that.